Today is the feast of Christ the King. What kind of power does Christ have? Thy gospel is that, hanging on the cross. The glory of the icon is about that. The gospel for today is Christ crucified. Power? He's powerless, humanly speaking. I was in the bank the other day, and one of the employees and her husband adopted a baby. The father brought the baby in, and the bank manager was holding this little boy. I mean, this child he was asleep, perfect. And the manager was holding him in her arms, and nobody, the people, even the people with the windows were watching the baby rather than probably counting out the money at the tellers. Who knows what they were doing? This baby controlled the bank. I thought it was just a wonderful, wonderful scene. What is it about an infant that makes adults who are very sophisticated go goo goo gaga? You know what we do? We reduce ourselves to that, thinking that somehow will connect. But what is in that? What is the power that infant has over all of these sophisticated adults? It's vulnerable. This child is vulnerable. And that speaks to the vulnerability that is at the core of every one of us. And that's what needs to be protected in the good sense and nurtured and developed, and never to be allowed to harden so much that we think that the real power is in those other areas. There's something in the infant that is Jesus Christ. Think of, we're coming to Christmas. The infancy narratives. Jesus is born powerless. The gospel of today is at the end. Jesus dies powerless, not in control. That is a wake-up call to his disciples about what is real power and what isn't. And when it comes to the kingdoms of life and world, what kingdom do you want to belong to? What do you watch on Sunday nights on TV at 9 o'clock? On ABC. Don't act like you're innocent. Revenge. Now, I'm not promoting this program, but I think it's interesting. This is the byline for Revenge. Welcome to the Hamptons, a glittering world of incredible wealth and privilege, where smiles hide secrets, and nothing is colder than revenge. It's easy to see why the Hamptons are so exclusive, but no matter how guarded they are, they can't keep the truth out forever. Let's counterpose this with this. And if I had done my homework and figured out our technology, which we have to do better, I would run this 2-minute video, which was on CBS News recently. And it's the story of this man who was, well, I'll read you the whole story, and it would be better watching it, but we're not ready to do that yet. But this is the story. Not many convicts consider themselves blessed, but Eric Smallridge does, and for good reasons. He's getting out of prison way early. It's going to be like being on borrowed time, because I know I should still be in prison because the justice system said I should still be in prison, Eric says. In 2003, Eric of Tallahassee, Florida, was found guilty of 2 counts of DUI manslaughter. While driving at twice the legal limit for alcohol, he hit a car carrying Lisa Dixon and Megan Napier, both 20, killing both girls instantly. He got 22 years for the crime, which sounded just about right to Renee Napier, Megan's mom. I felt like our system had served us well and justice had been served. I definitely felt that, she says. But a few years later, a woman came forward and asked the judge to reduce Eric's sentence by half. She claimed Eric was truly sorry for what he'd done and deserved leniency. The judge obliged, partly because of what she said, but mostly because of who she was. Renee's 180-degree shift began with the single turn of a single phrase. First, at Eric's sentencing, and later in a letter, Renee told Eric she'd forgiven him, even though, at the time, she hadn't. Not really. At trial, Eric had actually been pretty defensive and unapologetic. I could hate him forever, and the world would tell me that I have a right to do that, she says. It's not going to do me any good, and it's not going to do him any good. I would grow old and bitter and angry and hateful. In my opinion, forgiveness is the only way to heal. She says it did heal her, almost as much as it healed him. It was like a burden, he says. It was a weight off my chest. I no longer had to hide behind this facade. Following the forgiveness, Eric apologized repeatedly and profusely, in private and in public, to the families of both girls. Eventually, Lisa's parents forgave him too, which only inspired Eric to atone even more. While still in custody, Eric agreed to speak at high schools with Renee, telling kids, as only they can, the consequences of drinking and driving. They both plan to continue doing this even after Eric's release. I'm going to go wherever we need to go to spread this message, because I don't believe it's about us anymore, he says. There's going to be healing, and there's going to be good things from here on out, says she. This week, Eric Smallridge was released from custody into the arms of his parents. His mom so grateful that she actually hugged the guard first. It's a happy ending that would never have existed without forgiveness. Because of that one powerful word, tonight he is free, and so is she. In the video, the news story, it shows them speaking at a high school, in a high school auditorium to high school kids together and giving a profound message. Now, the question for the Feast of Christ the King is very simple. Which kingdom do you choose to belong to in this life, which has some connection to the next? You want revenge? You want forgiveness? Guess where the grace of God is working in our hearts. And think infant. hateful.